He was Iron Mike. He was also Captain Hook. He built contenders, lifted trophies, and left chaos everywhere he went. His weapon was control.
He never, ever wanted you comfortable because he thought when you were comfortable, you weren't going to be as effective in a crisis.
His obsession was the cup. This is the story of Mike Keenan.
You had to make hard decisions. That's what coaching's about.
Mike Keenan was a Canadian coach born in 1949. He was called the most hated coach in the league, but he still climbed all the way to the Stanley Cup. He grew up in Bowmanville, Ontario. He never played in the NHL, but he became one of the most intense and talked about coaches the league ever saw. His style was built on pressure, demanding work, and emotional force. Many players said he pushed so far they began to truly hate him. Many also said they played some of the best hockey of their careers under him.
From idol to hating him to kind of liking him now.
To understand why he became the most hated coach of his era, you have to look at how people described him. Sports Illustrated once called Keenan the most reviled man in hockey, a title that followed him for years. A story said his coaching style made it feel like there would be casualties, meaning players were often pushed to the breaking point. Reporters and players also talked about the way he spoke to his team. Players didn't just fear Keenan. Many flat out hated playing for him. Deadspin wrote that Keenan hurled insults so vicious they made players dread coming to the rink and hated dealing with him. Former players said he used foul language to try to spark effort, and this created a tense and angry room. Yet this same man also built one of the most successful coaching records in modern NHL history. He took 3 different teams to the Stanley Cup final. He won the Stanley Cup with the New York Rangers in 1994, ending their long championship drought.
I was really privileged to have that opportunity.
Later, he coached in Russia and won the Gagarin Cup with Metalurg Magnitogorsk, becoming the first coach to win both the NHL title and the KHL title. This strange mix of big wins and big problems shaped Keenan's identity. Teams hired him because he got results, and players feared him because those results came at a heavy cost. Keenan did not begin as a famous coach. His journey started at the school level. He coached the hockey team at Forest Hill Collegiate Institute in Toronto. It was simply a beginning, but even here, his style was strong. He wanted structure, discipline, and full effort. He then moved to junior hockey. He took over the Oshawa Legionnaires and led them to league titles in 1979 and 1980. Soon after, he moved to the AHL and coached the Rochester Americans. His work paid off there, too. In 1983, he won the Calder Cup, the league's top trophy. He even returned to the University of Toronto for a short period and led the team to a national championship. Everywhere Keenan went, he won. He controlled practices, he managed every detail. He demanded the highest standard, and the results were there. The long list of early victories made NHL teams take notice. They wanted a coach who could turn a roster into a contender, and Keenan had shown he could do that again and again. In 1984, the Philadelphia Flyers gave him his first NHL job. This was the start of his rise to fame and his rise in controversy. He coached the Flyers for 4 seasons, and this is where he earned the nickname Iron Mike. Fans later added Captain Hook because he pulled goalies faster and more often than most coaches. Keenan made an impact right away in Philadelphia. In his first season, the Flyers won 53 games and became a powerhouse. He won the Jack Adams Award as the NHL Coach of the Year in 1985. He took the Flyers to the Stanley Cup final that same year. 2 years later, he took them to the final again in 1987. On the surface, the Flyers were thriving. They played strong, aggressive hockey. They worked hard. They were tough. Keenan believed that to win, you had to play with effort every night, and the Flyers reflected that. Inside the locker room, resentment, fear, and pure hate were rising every week. Keenan used pressure as a tool. His shouting became normal. Flyers captain David Poulin once said that yelling was part of Keenan's daily coaching. Keenan even joked that if his players did not like the noise, they should buy earplugs. What made things worse were his long, difficult practices. Keenan believed that skating hard and suffering together made a team stronger.
As much as they
couldn't stand him.
Oh, yeah. Just so challenged,
Yeah.
The most remembered story came on Christmas Eve. A group of players asked for a short practice so they could catch flights and see their families. Instead of giving them a break, Keenan ran a long practice filled with hard skating. There were no pucks, there were barely any water breaks. Players cramped up and struggled to finish. They were upset and confused. For Keenan, breaking players was part of control, and many grew to despise him for it. He wanted his players to know that he was the one in charge. He wanted discipline before comfort. This made him effective, but it also made him unpopular. Dave Poulin later said that Keenan cared only about winning. He did not worry about how he won. He focused on results, even if it created tension inside the team. This mix of success and conflict is why Keenan was both loved by team owners and hated by many of the players he coached. The Flyers had strong seasons under him, but the emotional pressure became too much. By the fourth season, the team felt tired. Their energy was low. Their connection to the coach was gone. In May 1988, Flyers general manager Bobby Clarke fired Keenan. Clarke said the team was playing with no emotion and no enthusiasm. The players had stopped responding to Keenan's voice. The methods that had pushed them to 2 Stanley Cup finals had now worn them down. Keenan had built the Flyers into a tough, competitive team, but the same approach that created success also helped bring the end. The Flyers needed someone the players did not outright hate, and Keenan needed a new team. And even though he left Philadelphia surrounded by tension, the rest of the NHL was ready to take a chance on him. Because no matter how many problems followed him, one fact stood out clearly. Mike Keenan knew how to win. Keenan took over in Chicago in 1988.
And a lot of people thought, well, with that coaching staff, now they're going to automatically turn the Chicago Blackhawks into not only a defensive-minded team, they're going to win, they're going to do all those things that you did in Philadelphia.
This was a new locker room, a new city, and a new chance to shape a team exactly how he wanted. From the start, he pushed the Blackhawks with the same pressure he used in Philadelphia. Chicago became known for hard checks, tough battles, and a grinding style of hockey that matched their new coach. Under Keenan, the Blackhawks weren't just physical. They were aggressive from the first drop of the puck until the final whistle. One example of how far things went was Mike Pelusso's penalty minutes during Keenan's final year in Chicago. Peluso recorded 408 penalty minutes in only 63 games. This showed the type of edge Keenan demanded. His players were expected to push, hit, and battle for every inch of ice. But the same pressure that created effort also created anger. His time in Chicago is filled with stories of players reaching their limit. The most famous one involves tough defenseman Dave Manson. Manson was known for being strong and fearless, the kind of player most coaches would want. But even he reached a breaking point with Keenan's constant shouting. During one intermission, Manson snapped and chased Keenan through the hallways of Chicago Stadium while still wearing his skates. It showed just how much raw hate his players carried. Keenan's team didn't always enjoy the journey, but the results appeared again. In 1992, he pushed the Blackhawks all the way to the Stanley Cup Final. They lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins, but it was another deep playoff run. Keenan had now led 3 different teams to hockey's biggest stage, which is something very few coaches have done. Even with the success, the same pattern was forming. Keenan pushed hard and players pushed back. After the 1992 final, tension grew between Keenan and the team's senior management. There was a debate inside the organization about the future direction of the team. Many wanted Daryl Sutter, Keenan's assistant, to take over as head coach. It was another power struggle, something that followed Keenan everywhere he went. By the end of the season, the Blackhawks moved on without him. While all this was happening, Keenan was also building his name on the international stage. In 1987, he coached Team Canada in the Canada Cup. That tournament is still seen as one of the greatest in hockey history. Canada faced the Soviet Union in a best-of-3 final. All 3 games ended with a score of 6-5. The final goal, scored by Mario Lemieux from a pass by Wayne Gretzky, is one of the most famous goals in Canadian hockey. Keenan was behind the bench for it. That victory made him a national hero, even as NHL players called him one of the most hated coaches alive. This win gave Keenan extra confidence. It told him that his approach worked not only in the NHL, but also on the world stage. It showed that even the best players in the world could win under his system, even if they didn't always enjoy the process. After Chicago, Keenan didn't wait long for another chance. The New York Rangers hired him for the 1993 to 1994 season. The Rangers had not won the Stanley Cup since 1940. Breaking that long drought was the job every coach wanted, and it also came with pressure that few coaches could handle. The regular season went well. The Rangers won the President's Trophy, which is given to the team with the best record. In the playoffs, Keenan pushed his players even harder. There were arguments. There were long stares on the bench. He argued with players and staff many times. But there were also wins. A lot of them. The Rangers fought their way to the Stanley Cup Final against the Vancouver Canucks. It was a tough series that went all the way to Game 7. In that final game, the Rangers held on and won the Stanley Cup. The building shook. Fans cried. After 54 long years, the Rangers had their championship. Keenan lifted the cup in front of a cheering crowd. But even during this high point, trouble was slowly building in the background. Keenan's relationship with the Rangers general manager had become strained. They hardly spoke by the end of the season. There were also reports that Keenan was already in talks with other teams while the Rangers were still in the playoffs. His trust in management was fading fast. The breaking point came just weeks after the Stanley Cup win. Keenan was due a playoff bonus. The Rangers paid it 1 day late. Keenan said this broke his contract and announced that he was leaving the team. It led to a major legal fight inside the NHL, and the league had to step in, suspend him, and fine the teams involved. Keenan had just delivered one of the greatest wins in team history, then walked away before the city even finished celebrating. He was a champion, but he also left confusion, anger, and a mess that had to be cleaned up. His next stop would be St. Louis, a place where his most intense chapter was waiting. From the moment he arrived in 1994, the entire room felt the change. Keenan ruled the practices, the lineup, and the future of the team. If he liked you, you played. If he didn't, you were gone. This made players uneasy and angry because they knew his style tore apart teams and they hated him for it. In St. Louis, the hate was open, loud, and impossible to hide. The biggest clash came with Brett Hull. Hull was the star of the team, a top scorer, and one of the most loved players in Blues history. But Keenan did not care about past success. He wanted strict effort and complete control. Hull was skilled and creative. Keenan wanted structure. It was a clash of two strong personalities. Their disagreements became public. Keenan questioned Hull's play. Hull pushed back. Reporters covered every moment. The tension and open hatred between them grew so fast that the Blues front office stripped Hull of the captaincy. It was one of the clearest signs that Keenan now controlled everything. Then came the story that still follows Keenan to this day. The Blues were playing in Buffalo. Dale Hawerchuk's grandmother traveled from nearby Fort Erie to watch him play. She was elderly and wanted to see him one last time. Keenan knew she was in the building, but he benched Hawerchuk for the entire game. When Brett Hull confronted him about it, the argument shook the room. Many players said it was one of the hardest moments they had ever seen from a coach.
Keenan was he was mean, he was mean-spirited. He almost was doing it out of pleasure to belittle people and to make trades that were just asinine, little things like that.
As GM, Keenan also made bold and unpopular trades. He dealt Craig Janney after only 8 games. Many believed it was because he simply did not like Janney's style. Then he traded Brendan Shanahan, a fan favorite, for young defenseman Chris Pronger. At the time, the trade angered fans. Pronger later became a Hall of Fame player, but at the moment, it felt like Keenan was tearing the team apart.
Come in the room, and the only guy I'd ever seen do this was after a morning skate, he'd come in and tell the trainers to move guys from one area in the dressing room to another area in the dressing room, and it's just, like, why?
Keenan's choices created anger, resentment, and real hate on every level of the team. Some players tried to keep up, others grew frustrated. The room felt poisoned, with players openly hating the way he crushed their team. Instead of building a stronger team, the Blues felt like they were sinking under the pressure. By late 1996, it became clear that things were falling apart. The team's performance dipped. The constant clashes drained the players. The feud with Brett Hull was still raging. The Blues finally fired Keenan in December 1996. Reports said that the team still owed him about $7 million, which showed how badly they wanted to move on from the chaos. They believed giving Keenan total power would bring a championship. Instead, it brought one of the most difficult eras the franchise had ever seen. When the Blues fired him in 1996, it left a clear message across the league. His style could bring wins, but it also brought damage that was hard to repair. After leaving the Blues, he kept moving from team to team. Teams still took the chance because they wanted the spark he brought, even if they feared the fire that came with it. His next major stop was in Vancouver in 1997. If St. Louis was chaos, Vancouver was a full breakup. Keenan stepped into a team that already had strong personalities, and the clash came fast. The biggest conflict exploded with Trevor Linden, who quickly grew to resent and hate the way Keenan treated him. Linden wasn't just a player. He was the heart of the city and one of the most respected leaders in Canucks history. But Keenan didn't care about public opinion. He blamed Linden for the losses, challenged him in the room, and pushed him harder than any player expected. Their relationship broke down so badly that Keenan traded Linden to the New York Islanders. Vancouver fans were furious. Many still consider it one of the darkest moves in team history. After Vancouver, the pattern continued. Keenan moved to the Boston Bruins for a single season. He then went to the Florida Panthers, where he became known for pulling goalies again and again. Even Roberto Luongo said that under Keenan, goalies had to stay alert because they could be pulled at any moment, even after making a good save. It matched the nickname he'd earned years earlier. Captain Hook had returned. His final NHL stop was with the Calgary Flames from 2007 to 2009. But, like before, the tension could not stay hidden for long. His short runs became normal. Teams brought him in hoping for magic. Instead, they often found conflicts, pressure, and worn-out players. After Calgary let him go, his long NHL journey was finished. But Keenan still wanted to coach, so he left for a new challenge. The second act of his career began in Russia. He joined Metallurg Magnitokorsk in the KHL, a league known for strong teams and demanding fans. Many wondered if his style would work overseas. It did. In 2014, Keenan led the team to the Gagarin Cup, the top trophy in the KHL. That win made him the first coach in history to win both the Stanley Cup and the KHL championship. Even in a new country, his intense approach created results. But even a championship couldn't hide the constant tension and hate that followed him everywhere. He was fired the next year after conflicts behind the scenes. The pattern of short relationships, strong tension, and sudden exits followed him across the world. In the years that followed, Keenan took on more roles in Europe, coaching the Italian national team as they prepare for the 2026 Winter Olympics. He also faced a personal battle. In 2018, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He spoke openly about it and pushed through treatment with the same force he once used behind the bench. Keenan also wrote a memoir titled Iron Mike. Some readers said it felt like he was defending his tough approach. Others said it gave a rare look into how he coached and why he believed fear and pressure were needed to win. Now older, he carries a legacy defined by wins, enemies, and a level of hate almost no NHL coach ever reached. Some say he was a winner who never accepted excuses. Others call him a coach who pushed too far and broke too many relationships. Both sides are true. Mike Keenan won almost everything, but he paid for those wins with battles that never seemed to end. He was Captain Hook. He was Iron Mike. He proved fear could win games and lose every locker room he ever walked into. Which story blew your mind more, the Linden trade or the Howard-Chuck benching? Let us know below, you absolute weapons. And if you want the next legend, smash subscribe before you miss another empty net, bud. And if you want a front row stall with the Skates and Scars crew, hit join. We'll save you a spot. Just try not to trip over the blue line on your way in, you pigeon.